Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 4, Building Resilience and Hope. I apologize. You're going to be joining me from my living room because my office is under construction a little bit. So, welcome to my living room. Pull up a drink, enjoy yourself, and let's get started. So here we are at day 4 of the chronic pain solution, and I really truly am glad that you're here. I have taken a bunch of these online workshops as well, and I know that it can be challenging to continue to just open the emails and watch the videos. So thank you for doing this for yourself. Over the last couple days, we have done some enormous work. I don't know if you realize that or not, but we've been exploring your pain story. We've been identifying things that trigger your pain. We're creating a flare plan, and that is no small accomplishment. So do me a favor and take a minute and give yourself some credit, okay, for showing up and putting in the effort. I hope that you've been enjoying the Facebook group interaction and that you will join me at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time for our live Q&A tonight inside the Facebook group. And the link for that again is in the email that this is in. All right. Today we are focusing on resilience and hope. And these aren't just feel good ideas. They really truly are practical tools that help you move forward to getting the life that you want in a way that feels achievable and empowering. And we do know from research that resilience is one of the building blocks for living a better life with or without pain. But it is one of the key building blocks that we need as people experiencing chronic pain to get a handle on our pain and have it be less and have our lives, more importantly, be bigger, right? So, one of the main problems that people in chronic pain experience is that we have set unrealistic expectations for ourselves in how we're supposed to function in our worlds. And when we start by talking about expectations, we start to realize that they really can trip us up more than we even realize. Have you ever set like a big goal? Like I'm going to go back to the gym. I'm going to take this class. I'm going to do this thing to get rid of my pain. And you're super motivated, but that at some point you become overwhelmed or discouraged because it didn't go as planned. Totally common. So very common. But it's not your fault. It's really not. Society tends to push this idea that if you're not doing something big, then you're not doing enough to help yourself. Here's the truth. When we aim beyond our capabilities, when we move too fast, it's really, really easy to flare up. And when we flare up, we have a tendency to give up, which is why you now have a flare plan so you don't have to do that. But I think the worst feeling is that we feel like we've failed or that our pain is so bad, like that the damage is so terrible that we can't overcome it, and that we're so broken and so fragile that we can't do these simple things like everybody else does. Pain adds this layer of seeming unpredictability when we go to make these big leaps, and it's really hard to sustain them. But we feel pressure when we don't. Pressure from inside of ourselves because of the things that we believe about what it means to try, what it means to take care of ourselves, what it means to be normal or to be in pain, right? Like, I'm going to get a little philosophical on you, but it is the beliefs that we have about all those things that drive our behaviors. So we really do have to take a look at the beliefs that we have about what it means to be a person, to be functional, to matter within our society. And I will tell you, our society, especially if you're an American, tends to say if you're not producing, you don't matter. Do you believe that's true? I know I did, and it kept me in a ton of pain because I kept pushing through my pain to produce. When I started to change that belief, I started to change my behaviors because I no longer believed I had to produce to be of value. Gnaw on that for me, would you? But how about smaller ideas? Like the idea that if you're not visibly struggling, you must not be in pain, or that rest or fun or self care mean you're not in pain, or that like, well, you're good enough to do this, but you're not good enough to do something else, right? Have you ever asked yourself why we so often hear, oh, you're too young to be in pain. You're too pretty to be in pain. Why? Why do people say that? Oh, you don't look like you're in pain. Oh, I could never do what you do. Like we have a choice. You see, these are all ableist attitudes, and they come from our healthcare providers, our family, our friends, strangers, our society in general. And the way that I look at pain, and I don't think we've talked about this much, but it's called a biopsychosocial viewpoint of health and well-being. And you've got the biological, which is our tissue and our nervous system and all of that. The psychological, the things that we believe, the behaviors that we have, and the sociological, the environments in which we live, and the larger systems, our healthcare systems, our family systems, right? So the social is really the systems in which we live. Ableist attitudes are part of the social that weighs down on us and informs our understanding of pain until we do something else about it. We work so hard to meet these ableist expectations that we often sabotage ourselves without even knowing it. These messages can be so harmful, and they can keep us stuck in a cycle of guilt and shame and frustration. And they keep us overloading our tissues and our systems in order to act normal and act the way people expect of us. So today, I really want you to challenge these expectations. And let's reframe what progress looks like while we learn how to build resilience. Resilience is not about pushing through everything or doing everything perfectly. It's about learning to adapt, to recover, and taking small but consistent steps towards the things that matter to you, not the things that matter to your spouse, to your partner, to your kids, to your physical therapist, even to your pain coach. They are the things that matter to you. And small wins are the key to how we build resilience. They're the building blocks of resilience and of hope. As I said, literature tells us that resilience is one of the major keys to living the lives that we want when it comes to experiencing pain. Resilience is believing that you have what it takes to overcome the obstacles in front of you. Having it makes a gigantic difference, and I can tell you I am living proof of that. Living for 20 years, feeling like I couldn't do anything to overcome my situation was miserable. It was miserable. It was miserable, and quite frankly, it's why I do these things, because I do not want you all to be miserable. I want you to know what you need to get out of pain. And I am telling you, resilience is one of them. When I acquired long COVID in 2021, at the end of it, like really 2020, beginning of 2022, I had a lot different tools to deal with this. Now I'm still sick, not with COVID, but with long COVID. But the fact that I have all these building blocks, that I have flare plans, that I have resilience, that I understand how society sees chronic disabilities, chronic illness, and all of that, I navigate this illness infinitely differently than I did when I had chronic pain. And my life is so much bigger, despite the fact that it's actually smaller because of this disease issue. So if resilience builds with small wins, what's a small win? Well, it's setting a tiny goal and meeting it. So maybe you decide you're going to drink a glass of water a day. That's become your goal. And every time you meet that, you're giving your brain some dopamine. For my neurospicy folks out there, this is all of our dopamine hits that we do, right? We know when we take too big of a project on, we get bored, we leave it aside, it stays a wreck, right? We know that. Building resilience is no different. So maybe you're going to take a deep breath when you feel stressed. Maybe you're going to move your body 60 seconds of every hour. They sound like insignificant things, but they're really, really not, because each win reminds your brain that progress is possible. And most importantly, it shifts the focus from everything that you feel like you can't do, and it helps you to focus on what you can do. This is a reframing, a mindset shift, a retraining your brain moment, right? These are ways that this is all talked about within the pain world. But the beauty of a small win is that they are realistic and they are sustainable. They do not rely on you having a perfect day or being pain-free. Those are unrealistic goals. That's not what we're shooting for. We want your life back. Getting your life back may or may not be with some pain, but the point is that you get it back. That's the goal, isn't it? I mean, if you're pain-free, that's bonus. But don't you just want your life back so you can enjoy it and do the things you want and be with the people you want? When we set goals that are where you are at in this time and place, they build momentum over time because you see that you can instead of feeling like you can't. So let's talk about how we set ourselves up for success. I think you understand at this point that it's setting something that's achievable and manageable is the first part, right? So we're going to start small. We're going to pick one thing that you want to accomplish today, something that feels realistic, something that you know you can accomplish. So instead of saying, I'm going to clean the whole house, maybe let's start with, I'm going to clean up my coffee table. Small is not a failure. It's a strategy. Let me repeat that. Small is not a failure. It is a strategy. Be specific. Vague goals like I want to feel better or I want to move more, those are super hard to measure. So instead, focus on something concrete, like I'm going to do 2 of the stretches my PT gave me, or I'm going to write down one thing that I'm grateful for. And then the third part of building resilience is we're going to celebrate your success. When you achieve your goal, no matter how small, celebrate it. Acknowledge the effort that you put in. This acknowledgement builds confidence and reinforces the belief that you can indeed make progress. Every weekend in the Facebook group, there is a post that says, tell me about your wins. Let's celebrate you, because I want you to celebrate these teeny tiny things, because these teeny tiny things turn into small things, which turn into bigger things, which turn into bigger things, which turn into a past client going from she was going to drive for 5 minutes to being able to take a 3-hour drive to visit her friend without stopping. It is another former client of Moving Beyond Pain of mine that went from not being able to really be out and about in the community like she wanted to running a half marathon. Now, it took her 2 years to do that, 6 months in the program, and she started getting out more. And then a year after the program, she continued to build on her wins. She didn't stop with the things she learned. She continued. She was in my first class in 21, and it's 2025 now. She has gone back to work. She has gotten a yoga certification. She is helping others. She's out and about in her society, right? And she went from being housebound. There's everybody that has gone through the program has stories like these, and it's fantastic. And I want you to know that. So again, to begin building resilience, we start small. We pick one thing, we're specific, and we celebrate those successes. So why does this matter? Well, when we set realistic goals, goals that are designed for where we're at in this moment in time right now, not where somebody else thinks we should be, and we celebrate those wins, we're breaking the cycle of self-sabotage. Too often, we unintentionally set ourselves up for failure and disappointment because we're reaching beyond our capabilities. And then we fall short. We reinforce the belief that we can't do this. We reinforce the belief that nothing's going to help. We reinforce the belief that we're so fragile, we're always going to hurt. Many of us experience this cycle when we go to physical therapy because we're started with exercises that are too hard for where we're at. And it reinforces our frustration and hopelessness. We also see this when we're having a good day. We decide we're going to clean the whole house. and end up in a major flare. Well, we haven't done the physical work that we did that day in months or possibly years. So essentially, what we've done is we've gone out, we've run a marathon that we haven't trained for, and then we can't figure out why we're in pain. We need to train from where we're at to get to where we want to go. So if you want to be able to sit through dinner and a movie and you have issues sitting, I'm going to suggest that just deciding, hey, I'm going to go out to dinner with my friends is maybe not the best place to start. Maybe we need to start sitting at home. We need to sit for a coffee. We need to sit for a short lunch. We need to have a snack, right? We need to start smaller so that we can get to the bigger. And so many of us do not realize that this is one of the places that we are failing majorly. We just hear things like we're supposed to exercise, we're supposed to move, we're supposed to take care of ourselves, right? And we start far too big. So when we focus on the small and manageable steps, it creates an upward spiral instead of a downward one. Over time, these small steps add up. They begin to bring meaningful change. And that is what we are looking for. So I'm giving you permission to let go of these ableist ideas. I'm giving you permission to adapt to where you are at in your life and your journey right now. You're not just building resilience, you're building a life. You're reclaiming your right to joy, to rest, to care for yourself. And you're showing yourself that no matter what you put out into the world, you are deserving of compassion and grace and rest. Please remember that. So here's a little snippet of today's homework, and then we'll talk about it more in the next video. But I want you to practice setting realistic goals for yourself. Think about something that feels doable today, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, but today. I don't care what you choose. What you choose is not as important as choosing something that you can successfully complete and then celebrate once you've done it. I really want you to share your win in our Facebook group so that we can all celebrate you and cheer each other on, because we can't do this alone. It's too hard. Let's build a culture of progress and support. Thanks for being here. Thanks for believing in yourself. Thanks for listening to me. And even if it's just a little bit right now, know that you are doing amazing work, and it's one small step at a time. I will see you tomorrow for our last lesson. And remember, every small step matters. So take care, and don't forget to celebrate your wins and click on the next video, and we can talk about setting goals.